we're going to talk about revolution and critique today. We have very special guests this afternoon to talk to us and with us about these issues. Sven Lutteken will take the floor after me to introduce the subject of today and our guests more in detail. I wanted to provide you with, in short, with overall idea of the project, The Return of Religion and Other Myth. It's a three-part project organized by Basis voor Actuele Kunst here in Utrecht that consists of an exhibition curated by Sven Lutteken titled Art of Iconoclasm, a starting point for these discussions looking at the perspectives in the art world on the issues of the return of religion and other myth. The second part of the project is this series of talks on post-secularism, where we try to provide a context for this debate on iconoclasm in the field of other sort of discourses that we consider important for understanding the subject. And the third part is a critical reader in contemporary art that will be released somewhere in summer, where we will anthologize some key writings about the issue of the return of religion, as well as where we will present some new, very important texts that were commissioned by artists and theorists from different fields, putting this idea, this assumption of the return of religion under pressure. As the title suggests, we consider this notion of the return of religion as a myth that is as fictitious as it is constitutive of our contemporary condition. You might agree with me that almost no secular discussion in the West today goes by without blaming some key problems on the resurgence of religion. I think of the debates such as debates on migration, terrorism, criminality, unemployment, etc. You can fill it in for yourselves. I'd like to say that BAC as a space that operates in a sort of triangle between art field, academia, and what we call advocacy, perhaps connecting very actively to academic research on one hand, and the public debates and politics. We develop our project in a sort of continuous flow of research on certain urgencies or key concerns that are at play as both in contemporary art, theoretical discourse that surrounds it, and in public sphere. The return of religion is one of such urgencies we identified through the visits to studios of artists and through being attentive attentive and active participants of public debates. And we pose a very key question: what's got art to contribute to these public discussions about the return of religion? Of course, art and religion have had a long history together. And it was Sven who, in one of our previous projects, in the reader accompanying the project on migration, titled Citizen and Subject, who wondered how come art field is silent when it comes to crucial discussions in the public sphere. Think about a Danish cartoon controversy or the case of Fitna and other issues you might remember from the recent history. The question, where are the art institutions, where are the artists with their expertise on the notion of image? How can we contribute to these debates and think the current situation beyond the obvious image wars when it comes to these current discussions? If I name one source of thinking behind this long-term research project, The Return of Religion and Other Myth, which was Sven's challenge to the art institutions like us, like BAC, that we dare to return to him as a challenge: would you curate an exhibition for us within this framework? The second source I'd like to name is our ongoing intense collaboration with the Center for the Humanities here in Utrecht, at the University of Utrecht. Together with Rosie Braidotti and other fellows of the Center for the Humanities here, we developed a long-term trajectory of study groups, reading groups, discussion groups, and lectures called On Postsecularism, trying to address the notion of the post-secular that Jürgen Habermas launched from different perspectives, and trying to articulate what does this notion of the post-secular actually confronts us with. I think the closest to define this condition of the post-secular were the readings we organized around contributions by Kenan Malik's looking at contemporary Western condition as a condition in which our Western society is perhaps becoming more religious without necessarily becoming less secular. And that's exactly that interstice that we would like to address with this series of lectures. Thank you very much for coming, and I offer the floor to Sven to introduce the subject today and our guests.
Thank you. Just a few brief words, and then we begin with our first speaker, Mark de Kezel. The context for this gathering on potential, possible, critical, and perhaps even revolutionary elements in monotheistic religion is quite interesting. In the past few weeks, of course, we've had a huge row over the bishop, the renegade reactionary Bishop Williamson, whose excommunication has been revoked by the Pope just when this Bishop Williamson had made some remarks in which he casually denied the Holocaust, or at least questioned that there had been such a thing as a massive mass murder of Jews during the Second World War. This debate about this Bishop Williamson and about the Pope's attitude towards elements like this in the Church has been particularly virulent and has been particularly strong in Germany due to German history, of course. A left-wing paper, Die Tageszeitung, published this handy form, Raus aus dieser Kirche, which would enable people to state that they no longer want to be part of the Catholic Church in a really easy way. They can just fill it out and send it to the city or the village where they have been baptized. And it also gives a series of reasons for leaving the Catholic Church, so you can just mark them if you agree with those. I think the Catholic Church is too misogynistic, anti-Semitic, pedophile, homophobic, reactionary, or Ratzinger. That's the last option. And as funny as that is, and to a certain extent, of course, responding to this affair in such a way is perfectly understandable, it's still part of the problem, I would suggest, part of the problem that we tend to see, or in our society, media tend to represent religion, churches as being reactionary and what have you, and being opposed to anything that one could feasibly call critical thinking. And the left, of course, the Marxist left and other tendencies, other movements, have also contributed to this habit of thinking that religion and critical thinking or left-wing politics are mutually exclusive. This is precisely the problem that we want to discuss today, both from the angle of contemporary philosophy and critical thinking and from the angle of contemporary art practice. Art, of course, is also often seen as a critical practice, or at least as something that should be a critical practice. And after our first speaker, philosopher Mark de Kezel, we will have two artists, Mark Boulos and Natasha Sader-Hagigian, who who will also address this question, but in a less iconophobic way than Mark de Kezel, by using film and video clips and examples of their artistic practice. Okay, I hope you are not offended by my remark about iconophobia. Without any further, it's true, okay, thank God. Without any further ado, here's Mark de Kezel.